What's going on, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Duality Podcast, where our motto is living comfortably and comfortable. My name is Ian Perez, joined by Jonathan Mercado, Victor Rivera, and Chris Zora. We're four ordinary dudes with extraordinary dreams. Jonathan, what's up, dude?
What's up? Hey, what's up? Got a little excited there. What's up, everyone? And thanks again for tuning into another episode of Growing from the Inside Out. Turn our dreams into reality and stop all the wishing and start taking action, guys. This is what every episode is all about, every single one. And today's no different. The topic today is going to be learning a trait that some of us rarely even use. Maybe it's old-fashioned. Maybe you hear it in terms of the spiritual realm or religious realm. And you know what? This trait could literally change your life, impact the people around you. It can really, improve the quality of life, which is, like I said, it's every episode that we're here on. And this trait could also hold you back. It could move you forward. It could hold you back. How do you handle this trait? How do you progress this trait? And how do you use it to your advantage? And this trait is going to be humility. And I had to say it slowly because I was listening to a lot of podcasts today. On podcast day, I just kind of deep dive and I started listening to people. And humility is the topic that we're going to be discussing and breaking down. And the majority of my research were done by pastors. We're pastors. I did a lot of my research on the pastors and their views on humility. And so that's what we're going to go into. So the episode name, I got to give it to my man, Chris Zora here, just off the top of his head. The episode name is going to be, I'll let you say it, brother. What's the episode name? Give it to me smoothly.
A slice of humble pie.
Just like
that tastes good. It tastes good.
Hey, in reality, it's for some of us, it's a sour taste. It's a sour taste that it's an acquired taste. It's an acquired taste that usually comes later on with age. Since we're talking about humility, and you tend to realize you're not all that great, so you start tasting that humility a little bit later on in life. But how do we taste it early on, right? How do we taste it early on so that we can start applying it and growing together? But before we always get into all that goodness and the research and everything we learned from the past week, we need to jump into the arena of fire where we hold ourselves accountable to the things we said we were going to be doing this past week, past month, and to see if we're progressing or not. So as always, let's swing it.
Nope. I've slacked. I'm not gonna lie. I have slacked.
Swing it, pass.
Yeah.
Quick pass, bro. Quick.
Ali, no.
Potato.
I mean, I've read a little bit. I have not worked out in like 2 weeks, and I kind of had a good reason for it. I try a little bit, just my body is not where I guess it should be. But this next coming week, I'm gonna hit it hard, really hard.
What are the things you're supposed to be doing that you want to do?
Working out 3 times a week, reading at least 30 minutes every day. And then from a podcast perspective, at least a post 3 to 4 times a week of like a clip on all of our socials and our YouTube, which I don't know. I mean, y'all saw I did pretty good for a while and then fell off, which is the typical cycle that I tend to be on. So, yeah, I'm on the down slope.
You know what? It's a part of that is just being isolated. When you get isolated from your group, when you stop, stop hanging out, we stop working out together, right? And we'll talk a little bit about that because that goes with a little bit of humility is, making sure you're in the right environment to ensure that you're on a steady pace, right? You do anything solo, it's tough. It's a tough road, and it shouldn't be doing any of this alone. But yeah, hang on there, Mr. Ian. We're gonna start working out back together. We'll start putting some reps in. Maybe play some basketball tomorrow. I've been dying to play some basketball. But yeah, man, let's go ahead and kick to, was it Victor?
Yeah, let's do it. So I started reading the book from The Rock, and then I haven't read it since last time we spoke. So I got to get back to that. I'm gonna finish it. It's good. So I like it. And then as far as working out, I've slacked in working out. I've been getting kind of busy around here, so I've been doing some stuff. But I told myself like I'm starting to feel it, like, I'm trying to see it. I'm like, oh man, I gotta get back into it before the holidays hit. So I got a plan. So I'm gonna start running again, or just running just to kind of running. That's one of my things that I like to do is like a de-stressor and just clear your mind. And then it's a good calorie burn. I enjoy it. So
Why is that the first thing that always when we get overstressed, overworked, or we have something big that's coming up, like fitness and health are always the first things to drop? And because it's crazy because that's like it's supposed to help aid us in our lives, in our day-to-day. It's supposed to relieve that stress. And you're supposed to have that time to, to start filling your cup because you're overworked, you're stressed, you have a lot of things that you're trying to get done. There's some deadlines, life is happening. And we do like the opposite for that's supposed to be happening to us. It's just so wired in here. It's not like drop it. We feel like that hour to ourselves is what we get a little guilty, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, it doesn't have to be an hour. And that's the thing I think we have in our minds.
Yeah,
like, I have to work like 30 minutes because that's like, you have to work 30 minutes to making a workout. It doesn't have to be. Like I can knock out like 2 miles like in 14, 15 minutes. Like it's not.
You got to show off.
But but in my mind, but in your mind, like you need to be working for an extensive, that's in your mind. So that's kind of the thing of like, it has to be an hour, it has to be 30 minutes, it doesn't have to be. And that I think that's also like, you don't have enough time, which I think you just got to be prioritize it and kind of sneak it in there. That's what I'm gonna do.
Okay.
Just looking at my day and then and then squeezing it in to where I can get at least 20, 30 minutes, and it could be anything as long as I'm staying moving and active.
You're doing a lot more now.
Yeah.
Have you got more detail with your organization, right? Because usually the first we feel overworked, we feel stressed because maybe like we're not organizing and preparing enough, right? Like the calendar, right? Like
I think it's more yes and no. It'd be like my calendar's full, like everything's scheduled, but the time to myself is missing, and the time to myself has always been working out. Like I'm very simple, like working out as was like my time to myself, like playing basketball, things like anything that's fitness related, it's been time to myself. But squeezing that part in, I usually do it early in the morning, but it's been rough nights, last month or so, getting sleep in. So that's been stopping me a little bit, but it's gotta kind of reset, just get out, get my booty up, do it when everyone's sleeping, or family's not needed before the day starts to get it over with. So so it's a little bit more discipline and just doing it.
A new season, new habits.
Yeah, for real. It's been like my son was born, bang, okay, little transition, little switch. That was going good. And then like, okay, got to switch again. I got to switch things up again.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it's true, man. Fitness and like self-developing has gone a little bit on the side because it's like, you're trying to get everything I'm trying to get in the swing of things of everything else, family time, work, all this other stuff. So, but I'll get back into it.
What's cool? We've been doing this podcast almost 9 months now, almost. Are we in month 9?
Month
Is that 10? 10.
Yeah, we're in month 10.
10. We actually started. Didn't we start?
We started
like
January. So
we're in December.
We're in month 10. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we got this. So people who have been following us or just been listening since day one, or you're just now jumping on, you're giving in a bird's eye view of our lives throughout the seasons we're in. I remember early on in the podcast at the beginning of the year, I was like where Victor was. I was having newborns. This problem was occurring. I was trying to find routines. I couldn't find routines. I was trying to find solutions. And I kept saying every podcast, man, I'm just trying to get into rhythm. Let me get into rhythm because then, I'm good selling. But life just kept happening, throwing me off rhythm. And, I've been on rhythm for quite some time now, and it's felt amazing. But Victor's in that season. He's going to have to dig deep and keep trying out new things and, just trying out new things, figuring out what works for you. Because at the end of the day, everyone's a little bit different how we all react and respond to things.
Yeah, like I even try to get the workout at night, and I'm not a night work.
That's
to
tough.
Work out at night. Oh man, it was terrible.
I give props to anybody that has to work out at night, bro. That's tough.
So that's what I used to do.
Yeah,
when I was in my teens, that was nuts. I'd take pre-workout too. I'd go work out and be up to like 3 o'clock. But obviously it was easy.
Yeah, so Yeah, but
Hang there, brother.
yeah. So just getting that, I'm feeling confident I can get this in. I think if I start one step at a time, like, okay, let me go run. Let's get my running in, and then I'll start putting in like the actual with weights and stuff like that. But that's it, man.
Oh man, hang in there. What's up, Chris?
Yes. Since last week, I've only been able to work out once, but I'm still on track to meet my weekly workouts because of my schedule. I've only set it to 2 days a week. So I'll hit my second day tomorrow. And then the reading, I've slacked on this month, so I haven't started my book this month yet. But I know I'll get that done.
Which book are you gonna go to?
It's called The One by
The Matrix.
I can't remember what. I don't remember what his
Leo?
first name is, but his last name's Keller. He's the guy who created Keller Williams, like the realty.
Oh,
Ah.
cool.
Yeah. It's supposed to be a really good book. I've heard people talk about it on different podcasts. So
Yeah, I'd be interested in that. That's cool.
CG kind of have their business model, it's
A little bit of it from
a,
it.
a
Yeah.
reflection of Keller Williams
okay,
Yeah.
cool.
and Chick-fil-A.
Yeah,
Took the best
Yeah,
business
and then,
models and made CG.
But yeah, and then my other thing that I've been wanting to make sure I do is my posts every week. And I got it. I was supposed to do it every Wednesday. I got it in I think probably 10 minutes before the night the night was over.
But
It
it's
was like
important that you
11
did it
something.
though.
Yeah, I mean, I made sure I got it done but I keep forgetting like that it's Wednesday, and then like I'll think about it earlier in the day when I'm working, and then by the time I get home, it like slipped my mind, and then usually the next day is when I realize, and I'll post them on Thursday instead. But yeah, I got it done. So at least, even though it was late, I mean, at least I got it.
Yeah, it's important. Desiree, my wife's reading Atomic Habits right now, and just messing up the one little routine that you have could take you like back to like, so every time you do a routine, every time you do a habit, that line of strength, that habitual habit, there's a core that just gets stronger and stronger each time you do it. And it just takes one mess up to just like go back to zero. And that core just weakens and weakens and weakens. And so, yeah, so it's, even though you had like 90 seconds till midnight, whatever the case may be, you doing that just made your cord a little bit stronger, that habit cord. I need to read that book. My wife said it's good. But yeah, man, me, it's been a blessing because it's been tough. It's been a tough week mentally. I took a mental day off Monday, like just a mental day off of just self-care, brother. I worked out for like 3 hours. I freaking took an Epsom salt bath. I think that's what it's called. Did some yoga. And then by the time I was done with all that self-care stuff, I was like, I'm not doing any work today. Like I'm not doing any work. I got in bed. My wife made me lunch, and I put on anime for the rest of the day. Like
Which one?
that was Baki, the new season. Finished it, bro. It's like the new season on Netflix. Baki, the fighting.
Let's check it out.
Anyways, it's pretty legit. And so I was like, cool. Every 5 weeks, I told myself, like, Jonathan, you needed like just a full day of like nothing just to recover. And then I was like, cool, I'll be good to go the next day to get back on the grind and put things to work, but kind of let that leak into the next day a little bit. Right. So let it leak in the next day a little bit, but I actually got back on the grind about halftime. During lunchtime, I was like, all right, shift gears, go get back to work. But today was super tough, man. High stress. I told you guys I'm doing this business plan for the CEO and for leadership and the vision for 2021 for the team, for Camp Gladiator, for my area. And doing that, trying to listen to podcasts, trying to listen to a new book, getting ready for a conference tomorrow, leadership conference with John Maxwell. It's just a lot of information overload. And it's a lot of ways for me to make excuses not to jump into this business plan, because like anything, a business plan, when you have to do something that you don't like to do, and you have to start from like zero and like learn how to write a business plan again, do the details, do the exact numbers, do the data, like that stuff turns me on and I don't like it. And so I'll veer, like, I'll start reading here, or I'll start doing other things that I'm supposed to be doing. And today was one of those high stress moments where I was like, man, I finally opened up the business plan. I finally opened up everything, all the windows, how to write a business plan, all my CG database. I looked at other business plans from CG and just trying to look at the big elephant, like, where do I start? And I was like trying to breathe, got hot, like anxiety, sweaty palms. I'm like, shit.
Yeah.
And then I was like, then I had some, requirements from you guys with the podcast and accountability on Thursdays or Tuesdays, whenever we do the podcast. I usually just make it the podcast day, the entire thing. Like, it's like a 3-step process. When I do my hour cardio, I listen to an hour podcast about the topic. And then for lunchtime, I watch a YouTube video. And then before we go on to the podcast, I do a little article or, try to get some last information, some last facts. And I didn't start that process until like 5 p.m. when I had the kids and Desiree is doing her work. And I was trying to just, man, it was a blessing. And I just trying to psychologically try to just talk to myself, like, uncomfortable, get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? What our slogan is: uncomfortably comfortable, comfortably uncomfortable.
Comfortably uncomfortable.
I cannot speak today. I just noticed I can't speak today. My mind is running 1,000 miles per hour. And it was like 10 minutes to the podcast. I was like, I just need a shower. I just feel, whew. But stress, right? High stress. In the shower, I was thinking about it. It's like a muscle. It's shift perspectives. Going through the stress is going to be a positive because it's going to grow me, right? It's just like building muscle. You have to take it through a sense of stress. You got to stress out that muscle for it to grow and get strong. And so I just have to shift my mindset, continue to understand that I'm in a growing period right here. And when this whole thing's over, I'm going to be a little bit stronger. It's hard to tell yourself that when you're in the midst of like that anxiety and that pressure. And I'm just like, me speaking, it just comes out. My language, everything. You could tell when I get anxiety a little bit is my language and my vocabulary slurs, and I'm just a little off put a tad bit. But let's shift, man. Let's shift. Y'all have something fun to talk about before?
Yeah, I got one.
Yeah.
I have one. Vic, you missed it. We went through a couple before we started recording, and they're not suitable for work, so we're gonna pass on them. But I found one that was most suitable. It says, "Would you rather fart every time you laugh or burp every time you cry?"
I would do the burpee because it's so. I think I would like laugh at it.
So
I'll make people laugh, burp and cry.
Yeah. I mean, if I had to pick, I'd probably burp every time I cry because they're so far and few in between. Like, I'd probably laugh. But yeah, I'd fart a lot because I laugh a lot. So
nobody would want you around.
Yeah.
What's that? Laughing and farting? I mean, it'd be a continuous thing because, like, if I did it enough, like, I would laugh and then fart, but then laugh because I farted, and then it's just a cycle of laughing and farting.
You would die.
Probably. I would have no air in my body.
Yeah, I would definitely do the burping too. Just one, I don't really cry much. I don't even remember the last time I cried. But two, it's like you're gonna cry a lot less often than you're gonna laugh.
True.
It's been a while since I cried. Speaking of crying,
Yeah.
I've gotten like a knot in my throat.
Yeah, you know what? When I saw that, last time we were talking about that, the Blue's Clues, I kind of got teary-eyed, bro.
Steve hit me right in the gut, man. I didn't forget about you either, man. That dude that was my guy.
Here's a fun topic. Speaking of Blue's Clues, I saw on Victor's wife, she made a post, or not a post. I can't keep up. A story.
IG story.
It's part of the story. It's a story.
Yeah.
Doug turned 31 not too long ago.
Damn, don't tell me that.
And there was a picture of Doug of him shaving. He had a tattoo.
Oh,
He had 2 tattoos. He had a tattoo.
He looked like you, bro.
Pork chop.
He looked like you.
Yeah. And so, I'm pretty sure Pork Chop died, which is why I got the tattoo in his arm. I was like, oh, Pork Chop. I remember Pork Chop.
Yeah, the dog.
I have no idea what you guys are talking about. I did not watch the
cartoon
show.
Doug.
Odian Doug.
Come on, Doug. You were 6 at that
Doug?
time.
The cartoon Doug.
Oh, I thought you were talking. I thought it was a character in Blue's Clues. You were talking about.
No.
Yeah.
Witching cartoons. Yeah. But hey, I thought that gave me a little knot when I saw that. And I was like, was that Doug? That was pretty cool, man.
We're getting old, folks. We're getting old.
So we already told you what we're talking about today is humility. And, first, before we go into the actual definition, because I think this word is perceived differently for a lot of people. They probably think the word humility could mean something, and it doesn't even mean that at all, but they're using humility the wrong way, right? They probably have this different definition of what it actually is, because I had a different definition. And so I'm pretty sure I've been thinking about humility a tad bit wrong. And that could be just holding me back to making my leadership grow stronger, to improve others and to help others. And so I want to get real quick, because I know everyone probably looked up the actual definition. Did your own definition match the actual definition that you saw before we tell people what it actually is?
It's funny because I actually did not look it up.
Yeah.
Well, I did not look up the definition. Yeah.
I looked it up, it came up in my research, but it was actually more deeper than what I thought it would to be. Like it expanded on the thought that I had of what humility or the act of being humble is. I
want to know, what do y'all perceive before you give out the definition? What is y'all's perception of humility?
So for me, humility is like not putting yourself above others, or not putting yourself above others, even though you might be like better in certain things than others, but not letting that, make yourself like higher than others, I guess the best way I can put it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Because to me, it's down to earth. I mean, yeah, not being cocky. Yeah. He took the words out of my mouth almost verbatim, so I really don't have anything else to say other than that.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar for me too. But I would say like just kind of being modest too. Like when you do accomplish something, you're not going to be like braggadocious. Like you're not going to brag about it, or you're not going to be too arrogant about it.
So that's what I had. I just had, not the opposite, the opposite of cocky. All right. Not bragging, not wanting the fame, not wanting to be spotlighted. Reserved. I had reserved on there. Reserved. Not speaking up, just like being in the back and just chill and relaxed. But I want to highlight that word reserved, because I wanted to be sure we go into that part here in a tad bit. But the actual meaning, I could have sworn Chris was going to look it up. He's my definition guy. Falling off, Chris. You're falling off. It is a modest or low view of one's importance, one's own importance. So he needs the humility to accept that their way may be better. That is in a sentence, but I want to get at it's a low view of one's own importance. Doesn't that sound negative?
It definitely does. Because if you look at Merriam-Webster's definition, it says freedom from pride or arrogance. I guess it just depends on the perception of where you read it, right? But based off of that, it definitely could be seen as a negative trait.
Yeah, it could. I would say the way I found it was a little bit more not accurate, but in a different way. Humility is having a less degree of value. Let me rephrase that. So humility is as it relates to the degree in which you value or promote your own interests above others.
So seeing everybody as equal, I think is what you're trying to say is, right? You're not above anybody. Nobody's above you. You see yourself as equal.
Yeah. I mean, I never really thought of it as a negative, it was more on the line of like Vic, where it's like, you just like when they say you're humble, like you don't put yourself above others. Like you don't see yourself as greater than anyone else.
Now, you rate yourself from your humility that you feel like you have, from like a scale from 1 to 5, 5 being, you're humble as fuck, and then 1 being you're cocky and arrogant?
Probably a 3 or 4, somewhere in between. I'm very humble, and I think at times it can be confused with low self-confidence. An example being if like someone gives me a compliment, with it being work or something about my personal life, I don't take full I I don't take full responsibility for what happened in that light. I normally like say, thank you, but it's this person that helped me set it up, or it's my wife that does it, or I kind of rebound that compliment in a way, to kind of share the
deflect it a little bit, right? Share the light.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I feel like, honestly, to be honest with all you guys, I feel like all of you guys started with a good base of humility, humbleness. Can y'all agree, Victor? Like on the scale, you would say you're more humble.
Yeah, I'm probably pretty humble. I think growing up and then now I don't see myself above. Even I might be in my mind, I'd be like, I'm better than this person at that, and then I'm like, oh, that person sucks. Like in my mind, but I'm not gonna be like saying it out loud, or maybe I might joke about something, but I won't be serious about putting myself above others.
I think everybody has those bad and good thoughts, right? They just, but it's how you.
But but generally, I'm more of like I try to listen and understand before I like maybe judge and think myself better than someone else.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I would definitely say I'm more on the humble side, like maybe even sometimes too humble.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always going to, I think it depends on the time and the place and like who you're around. You might feel more humble or have more humility at that point than at a different time. So the environment, I think, can contribute to that. But like Ian was saying about like confusing it with like what did you say,
not having confidence.
Yeah, self-confidence. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so like I think that actually being too humble actually leads to that low self-confidence, or like the self-deprivation. So I mean, I think they kind of go hand in hand. So you might not really be confusing it. It's just like that humility is actually triggering that.
It does. It definitely does. Too humble, too reserved can definitely be detrimental, which is why I said you got to be careful. At the beginning of the intro, you got to be careful. And I think this is true for almost all things. You can't have too much of one thing, or else it's going to be the dose is in the poison is in the dose, the dosage, the dose, the dosage.
They said number 2.
The dose.
Yeah, the poison is in the dosage, right? And same holds true for humility, for confidence, right? Too much of a confidence could come off a little bit too weird, a little bit too cocky, right? So you got to always shift. And I think it's a season, right? There's seasons where there's times where you need to pull back some. There's seasons where you do need to, uprise some. But for me, I didn't grow up in environments where being humble was a thing. Like I told you how I grew up. It was a scarcity environment. It was a dog eat dog. It was worried about self and self only. I would step on all three of your heads just to get to where I wanted to get to. And so being humble wasn't exactly even a word, or I knew. It was not something that was in my environment. It's not that something I was taught. And I didn't learn it until later on in my self-development, into my leadership. Even when I started the franchise with Camp Gladiator, there was no humbleness whatsoever, because being a dog got me so far. It always helped me climb the ladder to get me where I want to go. And it was always boom, boom, got me to the top. And except for
so pride is what fueled you in the past.
Pride, competitiveness. I'm better than you, no doubt in my mind. And so I'm going to do everything I can to get myself to the top. And it held true for an extent, right? You can, if you're using bad form, like let's say weightlifting, if you use bad form, you're going to get strong, but there's going to be a cap. Like the cap is always there before you have to realize what you're doing is not going to take you to that next level. And so when it came to entrepreneurship and having to be part of a team and lead a team and understand businesses aren't one by one person, they're one with others and relationships. I got that hard reality check, like, yo, your ego is jacking shit up. Like your pride is messing everything up. You want to do everything by yourself is messing things up. So it wasn't until later on in my years that I had to have some self-awareness and really learn how to walk again with that word, humility. We'll talk about that little story here in a tad bit. But where do you guys think your humbleness came from? And have you felt that humbleness? What's up?
Before I get to like where that came from, like your story about like how that wasn't really a thing where you grew up. I feel like that's the same story for a lot of people. And so for a lot of people, humility is seen as a negative thing. But there's a quote by C.S. Lewis that is actually I actually had this quote written down, and that's actually I actually reread it, and that's what made me think of this topic for today was humility is not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less. So
makes sense.
Instead of, so you're not, it's not that you're, like when you have a proper, I mean, if we said earlier, if there's too much humility, then you could be like, your self-confidence can be lower. But if you have the right amount of humility, it's actually, you don't care what other people think because you're not worried about yourself. You're worried about other things, like your goals or the people around you.
So I kind of have something written down that goes hand in hand with that, because humility, like you're just saying, not too much of it can hold you back, right? Too much of it can hold you back. Too much of it, you sound too less of it, you can sound too cocky. But when used right, when used proper, it is not weak. It's actually really strong. And so here's a couple of sentences that could help you put it into perspective how strong this really could be. It's humility is not a doormat, right? And that's what people tend to think, that you're just a doormat. You're going to get, walked all over. You're passive. That's not the case at all. Instead, it's an understanding that every human is equal and valuable, and recognition that you are worth no more, no less. And it goes into the phrase a little religious here, is that Jesus was very humble, right? He had humility. He is the epiphany of what humility is. And it's not that Jesus let everyone walk all over him. And you have to be assertive as well. Like humility and assertiveness go hand in hand, because you now have to stand up for yourself and for others. And you have to lead, right? And so that's what Jesus did. He stood up for everyone, not just the poor, but for everyone. So he had a sense of assertiveness. And so that's when you apply humility and assertiveness together. And that's kind of that sweet spot where you want to be. And so that's when you found that sweet spot. Not too less of it, is you can go over the board and people are not going to like you. Relationships are going to be hindered and lost. And too much of it, you're not going to get too much things done, right? You're going to be a little bit more on that passive side. But if you bring those two together, assertiveness and humbleness, it's like that boom, like you're in this zone where you're impacting and growing together.
And that actually, like what you just said, it actually goes really well with what I actually thought of earlier, and I had to write it down so I didn't forget it. Yeah. But because I was thinking also like humility when it comes as well, like that, like using humility to also to succeed. And a lot of people always there's that famous quote, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And but no one really, I mean, they bring that up, but they don't really bring up the journey itself too much. And we were talking about pride as well. So I was thinking pride is kind of like a roadblock in your journey. It could become, I mean, not always. I mean, it could become a roadblock, or since I grew up in the mountains, it could be like that snowstorm that keeps you off the road. But then humility can help clear that path, kind of like a snowplow, to help so you can continue your journey. But you need to have both, or else, I mean, you can't. I mean, it's not always, the pride's not gonna only be that roadblock. You need to have some sort of pride to be that driving force as well.
Yeah. So I remember when starting this podcast, or about to create the podcast, we ran into a problem of how we were going to attack the podcast. What kind of content, what kind of information, how do we want it to be perceived on here, and we were running into, I believe in my eyes, a little issue of too much humility, where it was too much humility is because what we wanted to do is we wanted to take self-development topics and be able to provide it to the world. And some humility came into play, right? Some humbleness came into play in the aspect of we're not experts. We shouldn't be giving that advice. We should shift it to where we're just kind of learning and not really giving advice and try not to be experts. And you know me, I'm on the little other end, and I was kind of fighting back. Well, you know, we are at a different level than majority of the people. We do have to be recognized that. And because if we recognize that, we're able to help other people that may be on other levels that we can impact their life to move to their next level. So there has to be a sense of, we are some experts to a degree, right? We are putting a lot more work in, which we're studying every week. We're on this podcast, learning and growing constantly, and we haven't stopped yet. And we have some big accomplishments and within this group. Like just top of my head, nobody ever have I seen an 800 credit score whatsoever. There has to be some kind of, strategies. There has to be some thoughts. There has to be some intention. There has to be some knowledge and wisdom that Christopher has, that he has to be able to believe and have that confidence that he is on a higher level. So we ran into that mix. Y'all remember that mix?
Yeah. I think it was a little bit of that. But I think more of in that situation, a little bit of humility. It was more of being unprepared. Hey, this is a realm we've never been in. We listen to podcasts, and that level's like, and that bar is like super high. You're like, damn, like we can't, that was more of a little bit of fear, a little bit of like, man, how are we gonna, how do we gonna this contact to where it we don't sound like dumb, we don't sound like all these dudes, type of thing. But as far as humility goes, I think you asked the question of like, where does it come from? It's a little bit of a trait. I think, and traits, you can be born with, you can have a little bit of it, and you can develop it. Right. So I think, as you guys, like for me, I think I've always had it. I don't know. It's just the way my personality is. Maybe a little bit of my environment, but, again, I didn't grow up with, like, I guess humble beginnings, right? You see things and stuff like that, right? But as for me, I think I always had it. I never saw myself better than anyone, but a lot of times, I can say I was better than another person, but I never saw myself or said out loud. And I think that's a trait. That's something you can control, I think, because you can kind of change the degree of being humble, being reserved, or being, and then change gears when you need to be more assertive, like you're saying, being more confident. But I think that's something you learn either through life or through, self-development. I think you have those moments where you can either, learn how to be, more humble in certain situations, because there's always someone that has more experience than you or is better than you in some sort of area. So I think for me, I've always had that, I can learn more from something, even more than what I know now. And I think that's when my humility came in, when you said, hey, maybe we're not at this level, but we're at this level. And I think this level can benefit other people from this level. So when you said that was my humility and saying, oh, that's a good point. So accepting and learning from others' point of view, that's part of something that I've always had. And that's something, I guess that's a humility part in me.
Ian, do you remember that when we started the podcast?
Kind of, yeah. I don't really remember it, I guess, as in details as y'all. Just kind of had the conversation, and I think it was more of a knowledge or teachable moment based off knowledge. I mean, we'd never done a podcast before, so I think we were just trying to figure out one, roles, and then two, who we wanted to be, right, as a group. But yeah, no, I mean, obviously something worked, because we're 10 months in, and we're a lot better than we were before.
Well, too much of it could have we could have went with a different direction with the podcast. Too much of it, we could have possibly not even done the podcast. because we'd have been like, well, we're not even experts at all. Why should we be doing this? Maybe we need more time to develop, more time, right? So too much of that it's dangerous, right? Because it could put you in like, I'm not ready, and you can just go on a different path. And so once again, that assertiveness needs to come into play, and then not enough of it. You have that breaking point, like I told you guys before, with my journey of getting into a situation where I couldn't make it to the next level because people just didn't like me. There was no opportunity for leadership. Nobody thought whatsoever I would want to go into leadership. And so finally, one of the leadership guys was like, bro, your ego sucks, bro. Like you need to, like you're basically not leadership material whatsoever. And me being me of wanting to just always learn and get better, what do I need to do? And so I've been on the opposite end of you guys. And so I want to talk about how do you, I think Victor touched on a little bit, but coming for somebody like me, guys, and who can be very dangerous. I could be a poison to groups, right? I can be damaging to other people. I can hurt people's feelings, and just for on my end, I can be very toxic to others, right? Because I had not enough humility. How can you guys, what do you feel like, what are some strategies to help me bring people like me, bring it down some so that I can be able to impact other people as well?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for someone who's on that side of the spectrum is realizing that this world is bigger than you, and not in a negative way, right? Because saying it that way, you could see it as like you're nothing, when in reality, at least for me, from a religious standpoint, I mean, you were born. I mean, I say at the end of a podcast, you were born to be great. There's only one you, so I think when you're on that side, that there's too much of that, right? You're overconfident. So realizing that this world is bigger than you, as in like what you're trying to accomplish, is not just for you. Like we're doing it now. It's for our kids now. It's for our grandkids, our great grandkids. So the sooner you can realize that, obviously you're very, very important to your family and the specific role or talent that you have to share in God's world and be the light. I think the easier it'll be for you to humble yourself in those moments where you're like, well, I'm better at this. Why can't they do it my way, when maybe it's your way that's not making it work, right?
Yeah. Victor touched on a couple of points. Victor, you got any points?
Yeah, I think it's being having aside from what Ian said, I think having an openness. So being open to open-minded, openness to be willing to receive like the feedback like Jonathan received, right? Because Jonathan could have been like, nah, what I know what I can do.
About. You don't know what you're talking about. I'm great.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at my numbers.
Yeah. So being open to others' feedback, but also to Ian's point, really having the ability to acknowledge your own mistakes and limitations, right? And so knowing that, all right, yeah, I'm good, I'm the man, I'm the GOAT at whatever, but like let's sit, let me sit, let me think, like, am I really a GOAT? Is there another level, right? If there's someone better than me that's mastering this thing, and you're like, and you start thinking and really being honest with yourself and open, you're like, yeah, there is. So now you start to like kind of come back a little bit down to earth, right? And be like, okay, I need to learn. And then I think that's when you start to kind of go into the spectrum of, okay, now I'm humbling myself. Now, okay, I know I'm not the top now. Okay, now you're putting yourself probably in the slot that you're probably in, right? And saying, okay, there's another level here, right? I don't know everything, or I'm not the top dog here. There's still ways for me to learn. But again, it takes that openness, that willingness to learn and acknowledge that, okay, I don't know everything, or I'm not I do mistakes, I have limits.
Yeah, you pretty much just touched on what I was going to talk about. Like, you need to be open-minded to other people's ideas, and like just those new ideas, just so helping someone realize like they need to to be more open-minded, and also help them realize that like you can't do it all on your own. You need to have your team.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
So
Yeah.
that was hard for me to understand because I grew up in scarcity. There's only in the scarcity environment, you're trying to get food for yourself. You're trying to get things done for yourself. You're trying to make everything happen for yourself, right? It's dog eat dog world. There is no such thing as abundance. So it was very hard for me to digest humility, because when you speak of humility, you speak of abundance. You're speaking of there's more people than just me. And it's hard to think that when there's only one pork chop on the table, who's going to get it? But in reality is there's way more pork chops on the table. I don't want to say pork chops. I'm just speaking of Doug, but it was a very hard shift for me to understand. And, Victor was right. I sat back and I started analyzing who was at that next level and what was the gap? What was the gap between me and this person? And then it started to be very clear, because obviously the guy told me what my gap was, but there is a sense of humility. And when you have a sense of an abundance mindset where you want to serve others, you want to be kind, you want to listen, you want to seek advice to keep getting better, you want to stay open-minded, and you start realizing what Ian said, this world is bigger than you. There's bigger impact in you. Then everything starts to shift. And then things start to play into action. Now, granted, the scarcity, all that mindset's gone, but I still have to catch myself because I'm super competitive, right? So I have to zone in and be very careful with my vocabulary, because now I'm in a position where I do lead my team. And in my head, I can put some stuff on text, and I literally do not send it first. I'll send it to Ian. I'll send it to my wife. I'll send it to Victor. Like, hey, could you read this? And I intentionally surround myself with people who are more humble than I am, because that is another great way to have some great self-awareness, because you are constantly reminders of how I need to be speaking, how I need to be listening. And so once again, shout out to you guys, because I'm literally putting myself in that environment so I can be that environment. But
go ahead, finish your statement.
No, I was just gonna say the opposite end, guys. Like, yo, let's speak somebody. I think the most humble person on here, I would believe, is like Ian. How do we help Ian even move or shift or progress when he feels all like he's probably not deserving of it, or he's not ready for it, right? I when I first met Ian, I had this perception of super passive dude, right? super passive dude. He's not gonna make it to the next level, because there's no assertiveness, there's no dog, there's no killer instinct, there's no mamba, right, whatsoever. Maybe Ian can speak best about it, because now you're actually shifting. How are you able to move from too humble to, all right, now I'm moving some pieces around?
Using my why, right?
Which we did on the podcast.
Yeah. So your why kind of it puts that assertiveness into a certain light to where it's not cocky, right? So if I need something done, my why is going to push me. But I mean, humility is something that it's everywhere in my life. It's literally on my resume. My 3 core tenets in work is humility, integrity, respect. Those 3 things for me are big, and I think that's what kind of from you. I literally am the opposite. Growing up, I wasn't the star player. I was a nerdy fat kid, and obviously I lost weight, and I had my light a little bit in high school to where I was somewhat of the popular kid and things like that, and I kind of got a crash course in it. So I think coming from I wouldn't say the bottom, but being on the downside of things, we're always cared about people but never really got it in return, and kind of creeping up into that assertiveness aspect of it. It's allowed me to have that humility in certain aspects of my life. Now, there's some things that I wish I was more humble in. To be quite honest, parenting's really hard to be humble, because I don't know, it's just something I'm learning. But I think for someone who might be a little too humble to where they're teetering that line of humility and lacking self-respect, lacking self-confidence, is To me, it's the same answer as the other way. It's this world is bigger than you in a positive and beautiful way that you can go make an impact on not just your family, but your family beyond them and others around you.
Somebody's waiting on you, Ian, to make a shift.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's waiting on you. Somebody's watching you, whether it be your aunt, your cousin, your uncles, your daughters, your son. Somebody's waiting on you, Ian, to make that shift, brother. So I think that could be a good push for anybody, even if you're on the opposite end, like you said. Somebody was waiting on me. My kids were waiting on me to dial it back and to understand that in this life, in this journey, relationships win the game. It's not how much you can get done by yourself. It's about how much you can get done with others. That's how business is. That's how work. That's how everything is done. Nothing's done by yourself. Nobody, you know what the term I hate the most is self-made. I cringe at that term so much. It's like
no, I'm with you. Like, yeah, maybe you did like have the biggest at stake compared to everybody else, but you still wouldn't have got to your goal if it wasn't for everybody else too.
Everyone else guided you, helped you with some sort of mentor along the way, maybe a book or whatever. You did not just wake up and just create something by yourself all alone. And so that on my hand, that on that end, I had that, man, I was in a bad spot with religion, with everything. People used to tell me, be grateful what you have. God gave you this. And I swear to you, these are my exact words. I gave this to myself. That's how deep and dark I was. It was bad. It was nasty. I remember those words. Ugh. It's vomit, guys. So what you got?
So you were talking about how like you were like too prideful, you're like dog eat dog type situation. But then there's also the other side of it when you are like like you're asking for advice how to humble yourself a little bit more. But what about turn it the other way? So if you're too humble, because I feel like sometimes some people are being humble, but they're using that more as a crutch. Like, so like if they know they're not going to be the best at something, so they just kind of accept it, and they're like, oh well. So when they do well at something, they're like oh, I mean, I did okay. But then like, so if they don't do something later on, it's like, well, like you're still trying to keep that mindset, so you don't want to get your highs too high and your lows too low. But some people just, because they don't want to feel that pain, or they don't want to feel like that like great excitement, like, because they don't want to lose that if they do get that. So how would you help someone that is too humble, or like to the point where their self-confidence isn't there? How would you help them build that confidence?
So Ian said it. It's the exact same way. I would surround myself with somebody who I would want to be, who is maybe a little bit more egotistic on that side, right? I would surround myself. I would read about it. I would put myself in that position. And I think that's exactly what Ian's has done. Ian's, we're friends probably because some degree he was all like, this dude's fucking crazy. He's like the opposite of me. I'm feeling the vibe. And I was like, boom, I'm feeling this fool. He's right here by my side, like no matter what. So he's attached to the person that potentially could make him like come out of the shell just a tad bit more. Right. I naturally just attached to another dog, and that never did me any good. That just became, I just got more like heated in situations, and it was like putting two pit bulls together, and it's not an ideal situation. So in order for me to want to dial back, I would attach myself to like Victor, who still has like this humility killer instinct, right? He had like this humble mamba in him. And so same thing with, Ian and Chris. I think all you guys, we all come together and we help each other in this one area of wherever in our self-development. Like we all balance each other out to some degree. Everybody has a little bit of everything, a little bit more of everything. So relationships win the day. I would use somebody, that sounds terrible. I would build a relationship with somebody that I would aspire to be a little bit more of, because every day you have an opportunity to write your own story. Every day you have an opportunity to be an introvert. Every day you have an opportunity to be an extrovert. Every day you have an opportunity to be strong mentally, to be mentally weak. You have a choice every single day. When you wake up, Your paper it's white. So I would choose and have a strategic plan that today, here's my strategy. Here's what I'm going to do to be strong or to have a little bit more confidence. And I would start picturing. You already know everyone you need to know in your life. That's one of the books I read that's super impactful. You already know everyone you need to know. Start thinking about these people and start surrounding yourself in that environment. If I want to be the best pizza maker in the entire world, I want to go to the best pizza makers. Like it's almost that stupid simple. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I would say to add to that too is just I would probably help that person build their confidence. And to help them get that, that muscle of like being more assertive. And so, I will ask, what do you think you're good at? So
Nothing.
Nothing. They'd be like,
yeah.
I'm not good at anything.
Everything.
Oh, that's a true answer, bro.
Yeah. Or what do you like to do? Like, I would try to kind of dig and pry to like, okay, to get their confidence up. Okay, what are you good at? Or why do you think you're good at that? And then just kind of go from there. All right, let's apply that to what do you think you're not good at? What do you think you shy away from? Okay, well, let's put the work and practice into that. Same as you did this. Took a while, right? So let's do it on this one. So just really working on getting that person's confidence up. Because maybe I'm speaking for myself, but I get confidence by doing things. So learning and then doing it, I gain more confidence. I might be more humble and reserved on things I'm not really like I haven't done before, or I want to learn. So I'm come more in the background, just observing, right? Until I go ahead and do it. Then I gain confidence. Then I become a little more assertive in that area, in that whatever area. And so
competence leads to confidence.
There we go. And so that's exactly like me. It's like, all right, I don't get cocky or confident until I learn that specific thing. Like I wouldn't say anything until I'm like, okay, I put in the work, or I put in like, all right. And so,
and I wanted to add on to Jonathan's answer to my question. It's like, yeah, you want to put yourself around people that you want to be like. But you also need to make sure that you're not putting someone like, if you're super reserved, super timid, and you're like your humility's you have too much humility, you might need to put someone that's a little bit more. You might need to take steps to get to that point. You don't want to go with someone who's super confident in themselves, because that might be like too much for you. Yeah, it might just kind of turn you off to the idea of that, because you're like, how the hell am I supposed to be like that?
Yeah. Like when you monster.
Or you completely shift to the other way.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you need to find some balance in that as well, because I mean, they say you're a product of your environment, and if you put yourself with someone too aggressive or too into themselves, like that's going to just shift you in the wrong direction too.
Yeah, definitely find someone you want to be.
Yeah.
And not too much the other direction. Well, let's give some tangibles. I got a little list of tangibles of strategies to become more aware of your humility and how to genuinely practice it. We all said it. Every single one of us said a piece of the information that I have right here. And it says, spend time to listening to others, practice mindfulness and focus on the present. Be grateful for what you have. Ask for help. Seek feedback from others. Victor hit a lot of these. And using the right vocabulary. Like I said, me leading a team, I can't come off as, egotistic or not enough humble, right? I have to have that perfect slice of humble pie that I have to be able to dial back and give credit where credit's due, and literally like just be super grateful for my team and just acknowledge that and be open to listen to others, because relationships at the end of the day win the day. Literally, you do not win the day. The relationships that you have with other people, because this is self-development and we're all about growing. You can walk fast alone, or you can walk far together. And that's something that a new level of thinking where a new level in your life will always require a new level of thinking. And that right there shifted the game for me tenfold, is understanding you can't do this alone. I don't care how awesome it sounds to do it alone, right? Self-made. it's just not happening. You need a team of good people and surround yourself around amazing people. Y'all want to add? Y'all got that?
No, that was good.
We're good. Yeah.
Vic,
I'm good.
Victor did his homework, little dude.
I like it. But I got a quote to end it from Ezra Taft Benson. It said, "Pride is concerned with who's right. Humility is concerned with what is right." But you were born to be great. Go and do it in a humble way. As always, thanks for joining us today. Till next time. Peace and love.